The Logan Power Show. Welcome, everybody.
The Logan Power Show. The Logan Power Show. The Logan Power Show.
He is phenomenal.
The Logan Power Show.
He's here to empower you and impact
The Logan Power Show. The Logan Power Show.
It'll be a great show.
He is phenomenal. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Logan Power Show. That is powerful. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Hey everybody, welcome to the Logan Power Show. It's me, your host, Calvin Logan, live here at The Point. You're right, The Point. Harvest Point Church here in North Charleston, South Carolina. Well, you know what? We are about the people. We're about making things happen. I got me another candidate running for mayor for Charleston, South Carolina, the one and only Mr. Maurice Washington. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Calvin. Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here, sir. And it's a blessing just to have another candidate here to tell us your story and to get to know you better.
That's great.
So the people get to know you better.
That's very fair. That's
Definitely,
very fair.
sir. Definitely, sir.
Very fair.
So let the people know, who is Maurice Washington?
Very fair question. Maurice Washington is a Charleston-born, lived in Charleston all my life guy.
Okay.
I'm the ninth of 10 kids, born to Celestine Stevens, my wonderful mom. I like to say to folks, I don't bring the background of a traditional family or big name parents or parents who commanded respect or admiration. My mom ran away from home at the age of 13 from an abusive environment. She got no greater than a second grade education.
Okay.
My stepfather, who stepped in and to the best of his ability to raise and help support a family of 10, none of whom were his kids. He was a sanitation worker for the city of Charleston.
Okay.
And we grew up at Gaston Green Public Housing. Back to Green is what we call it. Its project is still standing. Our front yard was actually one of the city's dump. We had a dump west of us, which would have been our front yard, and a dump north of us, which sometimes we navigated through to get to either Burke High School or Red Elementary School.
Okay.
But my mom was a very wise lady. She never allowed us to believe that it was a dump, but instead she referred to it as Treasure Island. So we spent a lot of time, Calvin, at Treasure Island, especially during the summer months, looking for toys and treasures, but it was a great life. I'm a kid that flunked this third grade.
Okay.
But I had a smart kid sister, the 10th of the 10, who actually was super smart. She was super smart. Skipped twice. Mom only allowed her to advance once. And she simply worked with me to help me learn how to read, how to write a little better. And I'd like to tell folks that actually she taught me how to read rather than the Charleston County School District. But when we lost our stepfather, I said earlier, he was a sanitation worker.
Got you, sir.
He left home one morning, some 12 days later, still no word. 13th day, tap at the door, police department. They found his body at one of the city's landfill. Somehow he slipped in the back of the truck that he was working on without the knowledge of his co-workers. He was crushed to death. His body was dumped at one of the city's dump site and discovered some 13 days later. And what I admire about my mom to this very day, she didn't complain. She simply looked me in the eyes and she said, "Son, you're going to have to grow up quicker. And just don't go through life feeling as though you're a victim. Don't blame others for your shortcomings, for your failures. When you fail, you pick yourself up and you go at it again, and you just keep going at it." And it's through her love and drive for her kids that that we were able to come out okay.
Gotcha.
And graduated from Burke High School, went on and graduated from South Carolina State University. Didn't have enough money to attend.
Sure.
But, Calvin, the thing about South Carolina State, they didn't send me back home. I only had $250 in my pocket, and the $250 was actually the Social Security check that I got as a result of the death of my stepfather.
Gotcha.
So they kept me. They gave me work study. They elected me student body president 2 terms and actually paid $500 a month. I couldn't believe it. For a student SGA president, you're going to pay me $500 for that. But they did, and it helped pay the tuition and fees. And after I graduated, I met my lovely wife Violet. We have 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and came home. I ran for the State House of Representatives some 6-7 months after graduating from college, and lost, and a couple years later ran for City Council.
Gotcha.
So I've served 4 years on Charleston City Council, 8 years.
8 years.
8
Gotcha.
years on Charleston City Council. I've served as the chairman of Ways and Means, so I learned all the budgeting processes. I've served as mayor pro tem. I've served on the bank board of Bank of America, Spoleto, Urban Lead, Cities and Schools, a big fan of education. 12 years on the Board of Trustees at South Carolina State, 6 years as chairman of the board. I serve on a charter school board located in the heart of Gaston Green Public Housing, where I grew up. I'm very proud of my service there, of our kids who are doing exceptionally well. So I consider myself to be a true public servant, and I love my city, I love our citizens, and I'm glad to be one of the 6 candidates running for mayor.
Well, definitely. We understand that you have been a person that you would say started from small beginnings.
Absolutely.
Never had the full plate laid out in front of you.
Absolutely.
There was always the scraps you had to pick up.
Absolutely.
And but you stayed humble. Had done a lot of great things through your time. Now, with all those great credentials, a lot of people say, you got all those great credentials. Since you are a homegrown Charlestonian, and you can know what it has from the have-nots to now to the have situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What would you do better as being the next mayor of Charleston, South Carolina?
Well, when Mayor Rowley was elected mayor of Charleston 40 years ago, we had a city population, black population, African American population of roughly 60%. Over that 40-year period, we have dwindled down to approximately 27% of the city's population.
Sure.
Granted, we were a city in decay. We needed strong leadership style that managed from the top down. And he came in and provided that and revitalized the city. But my interest is, and my belief is, that you can revitalize a city, Calvin, without displacing people,
Gotcha.
without displacing your residents.
Sure.
Residential improvement, neighborhood improvement in livability, quality of life shouldn't necessarily lead to displacement.
Yes.
And we have to reverse that. So my focus is going to be on people, on education. In the city of Charleston, the county of Charleston, it is unacceptable for the 6 worst performing high school in the state of South Carolina. The bottom 6, worst performing 6, are all from Charleston County. Baptist Hill, St. John's, Burke High School, Lincoln, North Charleston, Garrett Academy. That's unacceptable.
Yes, sir.
Worse than that, Calvin, worse than that, these kids come from households with a 96% average poverty rate. That is unacceptable. We can no longer call ourselves the golden city of the South when we have literally a zero African American business present in our downtown, robust downtown business community. When a larger than normal number of African Americans are living in public housing rather than housing that they're purchasing.
Gotcha.
When our kids are performing the worst on all standardized tests, we can do better. Under my administration, we will do better. And I'll tell you, when I was a member of City Council, one of the things I'm very, very proud of, I started and funded through community development block grant funds a minority and women-owned business collateral loan program.
Okay.
Where we simply took federal dollars, put it on deposit with the local development corporation, and Calvin, as a entrepreneur looking for capital to leverage his business, to grow or expand, meet payroll, purchase inventory, or even buy a building.
Sure.
But you lack collateral. Well, these funds allow you to go into a Bank of America or any bank, and the capital that you lack to leverage the loan, we put it on deposit. That program will put it on deposit so that you can have access to capital to grow, expand, bring in inventory for your business to move forward.
Okay.
As a council member, I said earlier, education was critical, very important. We put state-of-the-art computer lab at Burke High School, at Fraser Elementary School, at Rosemount Community Center, Kiowa Public Housing Community Center, Jerusalem Baptist Church, where they had a wonderful after-school program. So I will focus on education. I will focus on inclusion, not just diversity.
Sure.
Because we tend to confuse the two. We think just because we have diversity, we're doing well.
Sure.
Well, Calvin, diversity only represent a mix of different kinds of things. Inclusion basically set the stage as to how the mix get along. Sure. Inclusion represents the resources, making sure that the right conditions exist for everybody to achieve their greatest goals and aspiration. And I want to be such a mayor.
Okay. So based off what you're telling me, so that the audience will have a better understanding, you're pretty much saying that we have a situation in Charleston that is, one, we got a have and have not situation going on.
Right.
Even though the mayor, like shout out to Mayor Riley for what he's been 40 years historically has done, is pretty much have been what we call a, I'm gonna get the bad seats out and move them to another city. And then on paper, it sounds like I'm doing great, but in all actuality, I'm really not doing great. Even though I may be bringing in the cruise ships to come in, things like that we have going on. The problem is there's not a even scale in regards to all races. So you're trying to cut that out so that everyone has a fair shot to the American dream.
Better than that, Calvin. I will cut it out. You know, we have to, one of the things my mom would say to us as we were growing up, son, protect your mind. Protect your mind. And I spoke at a African American church maybe 2 months ago. And I was the keynote speaker and stood up to the podium and I asked a question. How many of you are excited about the mayor using City Hall as a bully pulpit to raise $75-80 million to build an African American history museum? And the hands went up with applause. And I said, well, what if Mayor Rowley had brought you to the table, invited you to the table, and said to you, you know, you've given me 40 years when you didn't have to, because at least 3 of my various terms, you had a majority race in this city. You could have chosen one of your own, but yet you chose me. Now I'm on my way out. 40 years. I can use the last year as a bully pulpit to raise $75-80 million to build an African American history museum, or I could raise that $75-80 million to create business opportunities for you in my robust downtown business district. I can use this 75 to 80 million dollars to ensure that you have affordable housing, not in public housing, but homes that you own.
Gotcha.
I can use my office as a bully pulpit to raise that 75, 80 million dollars to ensure that your kids, the neighborhood schools that your kids attend, they're the best in the world, so that they have their best hope and best opportunity at a first-class education.
Gotcha.
I can use it to improve infrastructure where the flooding is so terrible in your neighborhood, it's running you out. And I can use it to prevent your neighborhood from further gentrification. Which would you choose?
That's a great question to ask. Now, for those who don't know the name of that building, can you tell the audience the name of that building that you're talking about that he just spent the 75, 80 million on?
Well, actually, he is in the process of raising the 75 to 80 million dollars to build an African American history museum on the east side of Charleston. They haven't raised all the money yet, but I personally believe it's a matter of priority. It's hard to look my brothers and sisters in the eyes and say, hey, as mayor, I'm going to use this office as a bully pulpit to do that, when I see that we have no African American business presence in our downtown robust district. When I see that more and more of us are having to live in public housing versus housing that we own, that we're purchasing, or can afford to rent at market rate. When our kids are forming below the national and the statewide average.
Yes, sir.
When we're being gentrified out of our neighborhoods and communities, I think there's a better use of the mayor's time to ensure that diversity, but that equity and that inclusion that you touched on at the beginning of this program.
Yes, sir.
Give us access to capital, allow us to build institutional, generational wealth so that we can help contribute to the building of such a museum.
Definitely. Now, another thing that, for those that are watching, understand that what Mr. Washington is saying, what he means gentrification, for those who have been in downtown Charleston, if you know the police station is right in the heart of pretty much downtown. Now, within maybe less than a mile and a half from there, you have the Citadel, multi-million-dollar location, plenty of money. But then on the other side, you have what's called the projects, President Street. But the problem is in those areas are one of the most worst flooded areas is one. Anytime it gets there's no sewage there in that area. Secondly, that's some of the highest crime rates, even though the police station is less than maybe 2 miles from it.
Right.
Another second thing, we talk about the east side. East side, for instance, has a problem where, if you ever don't know, the lights at night, they're amber. They're not lit up lights. What I mean by that is that when you live in a nice neighborhood, lights don't go amber. They stay lit. Like we have our backdrop, our lights, you see how clear they are? If they're amber, that means that the actual clarity is not as great. So those are the type of things is that when you go on the other side of the railroad tracks, is what I call it, the have and have-nots, you'll see a big difference. Now, $75 to $80 million for a museum on the east side, you want to ask, why would you put it on the east side and not in downtown, when downtown is where a lot of slavery started, when you have the market. So pretty much you put on the east side, a lot of your tourism doesn't come on the east side, it comes on downtown. So pretty much it's a building that's built, that's right there.
I didn't think about that.
And it's not really making a difference because number one, with a museum of that magnitude, the average income on that side of east side probably couldn't afford to go to the museum at a certain price unless you're making it that the museum is technically free. But we already know can't be free. It's going to cost some type of funding to say $15, $20 to go. Well, if a parent is below the average poverty level, how are they going to take their kids to see something that they can't afford to go to? So that's one question you may want to think of, may want to ask. Right. And when you guys go on, because those who are not watching, they have a debate going on October the 14th at the College of Charleston. All the mayors are coming out. the candidates are coming out there. Something you definitely want to ask. That question will come across is saying, why would you build it on the east side, knowing that your tourism doesn't come on the east side, they stay downtown? And the thing about also, you just mentioned $75-80 million. If people that don't know, the people that live in downtown Charles, some of those broken up homes that African Americans that do have, that they do own, if they don't build up that home, they get it up to code, they'll lose that home. Those people that are trying to get the quick fix for it, what will happen is that when they don't have the funds to keep their home together, they lose that opportunity. Like, give an example. There's some homes that are broken down, but because the property area they're in is double the amount if you went somewhere in Somerville and North Charleston. Say a home that's broken down, looks like, a ram shack, because the area is $300,000 in property value. So if I'm an investor and I know I can take that $300,000 I'll give you, you'll say, oh man, I'm out, I'm gone. Great. Then I'm gonna invest $50,000 to $60,000 on that home, and then I'm gonna sell that home for $500,000.
Absolutely.
So that's what's happening right now. So I strongly suggest for all those that are watching is that get a chance to vote, get an opportunity, listen to these people that are running for candidacy. Take Mr. Maurice Washington's information on the screen, look at his information. Hey, give him a call, say, hey, what are you doing? And give it an opportunity. So before you go, and we definitely thank you for coming on to the show.
Glad to be here.
I know that you have a tough task ahead of you.
It is.
Because you're going against 5 other great candidates.
Yeah.
But let the people know, for you, if given the opportunity, I know you missed a couple of things, what else would you do to make Charleston a better place?
Well, I'm a firm believer that a city exists to provide the core and basic services. That's what taxpayers pay for. Core services meaning I'm going to make sure that our streets are safe, the public safety piece. I'm going to make sure that our sanitation department and trash department is the best in the state. I'm going to make sure that we have parks and playgrounds for our children. I'm going to be a mayor that is focused on the education of your children, our children. We're number one. Charleston is a number one tourist destination. Number one. I want to be the mayor remembered as the mayor who helped Charleston become a top 10 city that's best for education in America. I want to be the mayor that invests in you, our citizens, not just in your education and your children's education, but in workforce development so that you can afford to live in downtown Charleston or wherever you choose to live, because we're going to focus on bringing income level on par with cost of living level in the city of Charleston. Those will be hard tasks, but I'm ready to go to work. I'll roll up my sleeve. I'll work as a partner from the bottom up, not top down. I will give you a return on City Hall. I have no political bosses. My bosses are the people that elect me to represent them. And we have to level the playing field. It's not enough that we have tourism type jobs that pay minimum wage or just slightly better than minimum wage. Now, we need to do better than that. We need to focus on jobs and job creation, livable wage, where you can raise your family in quality and without stress. I'm committed. I know how it is. I grew up in public housing. I've worked my way, no advantages. I've done it the old-fashioned way like many of you have done it. No one else in this race can say that. I've served on city council. I've served on a higher ed board. I've served on Bank of America, Spoleto, Urban League. I've chaired the NAACP Freedom Fund Banquet twice, raising substantial money. I am a true public servant. I have served on a governor transition team, former Governor Mark Sanford. Every single African American appointed under his administration was recommended by me. We integrated MUSC Board of Trustees with Dr. Paula Orr, first African American female to serve on that board. We did a step better. The only African American clerk of court serving in that capacity right now in the state of South Carolina. Hope out in Spartanburg, was appointed by Governor Sanford at my recommendation. She's a graduate of South Carolina State University, the first and only African American to serve in that capacity in the state's history. I'm very proud of that. So I'm a warrior for justice and fairness and equity and inclusion.
Definitely. Well, we thank you again for coming on the show,
you,
sir.
Cal.
We appreciate it. And like I said, Mr. Maurice Washington, he will be trying to be the next mayor of Charleston, South Carolina. His information is on the screen. Definitely get out in contact with him. Hey, he definitely gave some very, 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 very vital information that will give you a chance, you as a citizen and as a voter, to say, hey, you know what, this may be the guy for us. But hey, you know what? I don't give my opinion right now. I'm just giving the facts. But for me, hey, I'm sold out. My name is Calvin Logan, the Logan Power Show. We appreciate you. We love you guys. We'll see you on next week. That is powerful. That's phenomenal. That is powerful. My name is Calvin Logan.